We're gonna be building a city today, a small city. So if you find yourself in the city building business, then I advise you grab a coffee and tag along. We'll take it slow and go step by step, turning this empty patch into this city. The city has its own electricity production, its own water purification, as well as groundwater pumping capabilities. It has its own railyard, as well as pharmaceutical company. A parking lot plagued, low density downtown with its passenger train station. Lots of zoned suburban developments, as well as some pre-planned single developer suburban subdivisions. Properties for rich people and corrupt politicians to enjoy the view. And last but not least, some surrounding farms. Oh, and of course some infrastructure as well. We've grabbed the Lake Onoke, New Zealand-based map created by Rafterman. I am sorry if I butchered the pronunciation, but I hope I can make up for it in my appreciation for just how awesome this map is. It's one of those custom maps where I don't feel like doing any actual changes to the natural scenery, but just start playing. We've got our city starting tiles here. We've got a 2-lane highway cutting through. It kind of ends blindly though. And then we've got what looks to be a train yard here, or rail yard. We've got a few additional 2-lane highways kind of cutting through the map here. No major highways, which is pretty cool. I like that. But I think the first thing we are going to do is just to ensure that we've got an actual highway connection here to one of the other highways on the map. Now we've got this stretch of highway here, which also ends rather abruptly at this river here. But I'm thinking we're going to cross that, across this river, and then make a connection to our main highway cutting through our starting tiles. So having unlock everything on, it's pretty easy for us to just buy a few more tiles and get the connection going. I'm gonna delete this segment because I want to make sort of a ramp for our highway. We'll grab our shift terrain tool, lower the size a bit. Oh, that's a bit much though. Something like this. And then elevate to this level. Then we'll that's wrong. Then we'll grab our level terrain tool, right click, and we'll click over here. I'm gonna elevate ever so slightly here as well, but we don't need as much elevation, so we're gonna find a contour line here we like. Right click here and then rate this elevation. Something like this. Then we're gonna use the slope terrain tool to kind of smoothen the transition to this height level. Gonna right click and then drag from all the way over here. And my brush size is massive, which is not necessary at all, but yeah. Over here, we're gonna right click on this level and then just drag this way. And then over here, let's see, we gotta connect over here somewhere. So let's just check the landscape here. We can right click here, I think, and then just drag down something like this. And we'll of course use terraforming to kind of smoothen this out. But this is just our start for the ramps, for the bridge system we'll be getting. So let's build a few bridges. Let's see, we'll jump into highways where we've got this 2-lane arch bridge, and we're gonna use it over here. It has to be straight, so we're gonna check if it makes sense to build across this straight. It does look really good though. I think we're gonna build a segment here, and we're gonna build a small segment here as well. Even though it's probably not necessary over here. It might be more realistic to actually just have the section such as like this, and then we'll move in with the upgrade tool. Sorry, that's not what I tried to do. We can actually move in, and then we can just double click to get a pillar here in the center. Or actually maybe just have one in either end. Oh, the segment will only allow for one. We'll have it in the center then. I don't think there's gonna be much river traffic on this tiny river here that cuts through. Anyways, we can now do some connections, of course. Connect like this, and then find 180 degrees. There you go. make this connection. And of course get a good connection going over here. Find 180 where it snaps, and there you go. Great, now we're gonna move in with a bit of terraforming because I did go a little rough with the tooling here, and it does look a little awkward. So let's just smoothen this out so it's obvious that it's a purpose-built ramp. And what is... oh, this is actually a power line. Just gonna delete that, fix that up later. So let's just smoothen this out. Ramp we've got, and smoothen out a bit here, and then just finish up the connection here. And then just going straight down, and the elevation change isn't too bad because we've already sloped the terrain. And now it's just a matter of cutting through this makeshift farmland here. And we're just gonna take a right turn, and I think we'll have maybe an at-grade crossing, might elevate it. Let's see. Let's just get the connection in place first. And I'll try to follow some of these predefined farm areas here. So I'll just make this segment and then we'll connect up to it. Gonna switch to our complex curve tool. That should allow for a, well, complex curve, I guess. And then I think we're gonna elevate it. Gonna go above here. So let's create the ramp once more. This time we're gonna have a bit of a smaller size on our brush. Then we just need some clearance for the catenaries here. So we'll just right click on a contour line we like. This should be fine. Then we're just gonna click, and we're gonna of course click on either side, and then we're gonna elevate. Whoop, and we'll do the same over here. Although we've got a line here to follow alongside this farm, so I'll click there and just let that follow. And it seems we'll need to buy a couple of extra tiles so that we can get a connection in place. I wonder if we can actually get a... we probably can't get this bricks. Yeah, it would need a lot more elevation. So we're just gonna go for a regular piece. Something like this. And then try to follow the tree line here. Cool, and then we can just connect it straight up. And we'll move in with our soften terrain tool just to soften this out a bit. And I actually just remade that because it actually wasn't tall enough. So, and I think we'll add some keys on either side here, so that we've got a bit of extra going on here, and that should be fine. So now that we've got this extra connection in place, I think the final thing to do with the overall road infrastructure is to create a road that kind of cuts through here and connects these 2 points up. That's gonna give us a sort of a ring road and this triangle of development. And I think this is a pretty nice thing to get done before we start developing the actual downtown and the city layout, because it's gonna kind of help give us some boundaries to work in at first. So let's see, we've got some contour lines here, so I think we're gonna follow these farms here as much as we can, at least. So we'll once again grab our 2-lane highway. I don't want massive highways here. And then just make sure that we can follow the tree line here as much as possible, at least. We're probably, yeah, we're gonna cut through it here, but oh well. So I'm just creating these pieces here to sort of align with the trees, because then I can easily connect it up using some of the road tools in just a second. So let's get these connections going, and then we can stitch each segment together. There we go. And let's see. This one's a bit more tricky. I think we're just gonna be a bit rough-handed here and just cut through. And then we'll of course need to connect up here. And let's just make this, make a bit of extra work out of these. So I'm gonna add a few nodes so that I can customize. We've already got a node here, of course, so we can customize this ever so slightly. We'll make a few extra lanes here for easy connection. We'll make, let's see, some bypass stuff here. Just gonna try this out at least. Remove these and then make some simple lanes, on and off ramps almost. Oh wait, let's upgrade this to a 4-piece segment. And we'll do the very same here. Very nice. Pick our road services to disallow left turns here. Disallow right turns here. Disallow right turns here. And there you go. That looks a lot more interesting. I'm gonna do a similar thing up here. Actually, let's try and do a weird jog handle of some sort here. I've always wanted to try this out. Don't know if I know how to create one, so we're just gonna give it a go here. I'll remove this, and then we'll need a single lane connected up here. Just move out, and then hopefully with the continuous tool, gonna be easy to connect up. As such, we'll upgrade this to a 4-lane to allow for the slip lane here. Probably upgrade this to a 4-lane, and probably only need to upgrade this to a 3-laner. Let's remove our small stop segments here and just finish up the last few pieces. And I'm doing a lot of misclicks today. I only have a single coffee in me thus far today, so that's where the blame goes. Things are moving slow. And there you go. Now we need some restrictions here, of course. I don't want you to be able to turn left here. Don't want you to be able to turn right here. You can turn left and do a U-turn, I guess. Can't turn right here. Can't turn right here. And there you go. What a cute little... Oh wait, there's a left turn here. That's all wrong. There you go. What a cute little intersection. Okay, I think we're gonna start with a train station. That's a very central part of our little city here. And so I'm just gonna remove this railyard configuration, but I think I'm gonna keep the rail like this, not do too many changes. And then we'll move in and create a passenger train station here. And it's pretty cool because it appears that if I just do good alignment and don't misclick like that, then I could actually use the existing train track here. But I guess I'll just delete this so that we can get some sort of alignment here. I just want to make sure that I have the angle aligned correctly. And I think this is about as good as it's gonna get. And then we'll just place it here, I think. Yeah, whoop. Pretty nice. We're gonna have to name the city as well. So with my creativity in mind, let's go for the longest active Patreon, which would be Yakolev Norris. So we're gonna name the city Norris, because the first part I can't really pronounce, sorry. And we've got our train station and we've got a city name, and that's really all we need for a good start. So we're just gonna drag a straight road here alongside the train tracks and watch. Yeah, it's not connected, that's fine. And that's gonna serve as like a good base for how we're gonna map out our downtown. So we can have our downtown at like 2 angles. We can have one sort of grid that kind of spawns off this main road at the train station, and then we could create a different angle that is more aligned to the straight segment we've got down here. So if we already now just draw out a straight road, till about here. Then we can hopefully connect it with a road we can draw out from the train station, which is also going to be at a 90 degrees angle. And that's sort of how we can try and stitch two grids together and hopefully create an interesting city layout. And that's a weird connection, but we can hopefully make it a little less weird by just having a road such as this and then branching off with the grid here. So we're just gonna go for a pretty simple layout for starters, with enough variety, of course, to create some interesting stuff. We're gonna change this road up to a that didn't work, did it? To a zonable actual road, because we're gonna have some, I think we're gonna have some commercial stuff and whatnot down here. Gonna do it on either side, probably bring in the curve here as well, and then just branch out with a few more roads. And I don't want to think too hard about it. Sometimes roads are a bit random. They always have a purpose when they're built, but there's a random element as well to how a city ends up looking, at least after many years of development. So for instance, we're just gonna bring this down by a bit, and then we'll turn it into these small alleys for whatever reason, to just add that extra something that kind of changes up the road layout and makes it a little more interesting. Gonna add an alley here as well. We might bring that all the way through, and could do one here as well at an angle. And of course I gotta be careful, because the more weird angles I have, the harder the zoning task of the city is gonna be. But that's just almost like a basic premise in Cities Skylines by now. So let's see if we can get a road here to kind of follow the tree line here and connect up, and connect it up over here as well. So let's just do a little assessment. We're starting to get a good layout going here, so I'm just gonna continue mapping it out. And I hope it's showing that we're starting to transition outside of the downtown as we reach these few blocks here, by using the lanes a bit more, getting in some fake cul-de-sacs as well. That's at least what it's supposed to look like. So that's the general idea, of course, that we transition slowly away from the downtown, and that's also something that is visible in the city's road layout. It's gonna change slowly but surely as we make that transition. So if we just zoom out a bit, we turn off the UI, then hopefully there's a bit of a change here. There's the roads are only used as collector roads, and we've got the lanes with the cul-de-sacs, while in here there's a few more connections, and there's a higher density of roads with parking and just more room used for asphalt, basically. We're gonna continue the train tracks as well. I don't want them to just end abruptly here, because we might do a bit of industry closer to the coast. So I'm just gonna grab this train line here, and then we're actually gonna cross. We're gonna do an at-grade crossing at this road here, so that we can get the train tracks to kind of hug this this line of, I guess it's not really mountains, but it's more of a plateau, mesa-like structures even. So we'll just enable our continues, and then just enable contour lines, of course, to ensure we don't have anything really crazy going on here, but it doesn't seem like it's too bad. And then we'll just have the train line kind of hug the edges here, very close to the highway as well. and we're just gonna send it out here for starters. Just want to do this early on because it's always tricky to do major retrofittings to your rail network when you actually laid down, you know, your road layout. And for some reason we've got some weird stuff going on here, so we're just gonna remove the roads, prioritize getting the train tracks down, and then just rebuild the roads afterwards. Wow, that's yeah. Guess that's not gonna really work. I'm gonna try that again. That's a little better. I'll map in a few future low-density residential developments north of the train station as well. So we'll have just a main collector road cutting through, and then we'll have our smaller lanes kind of poke out from it. So we'll just get the main one in place first. That's like the most important part, of course, and then we'll get these cul-de-sacable lanes out as well. We might even do a small connection here, even though planning wise it's probably not the best decision. Something like this. Get a road that goes down here and just a little offshoot here as well, and then get our fake cul-de-sacs into place and just taking an overall look and seeing how that looks. And then we're just gonna frame off kind of the extent of some of the urban development here, I think. We'll continue this road straight on, and then we'll have small lanes here as well with the cul-de-sacs. And this area here is probably gonna require a bit of use of the pavement path to just ensure that we get the zoning aligned the way we want. But overall, I like it. It's a bit of an interesting look, and this gives us a pretty good starting road layout. There's a bit of a grid structure here and there, but generally I think we've been successful in kind of breaking it up with some other interesting shapes to make it look pretty good. Now, to prepare better for our zoning needs, I want zoning to be prioritized in the more suburban areas, so outside of the downtown core, alongside these lanes here. And the way I've done this is that I've used the road services mod, I don't remember what it's actually called, to just add keys to some of these street type roads and then just remove it again. It's not gonna fully prioritize the lanes, but it is gonna make it a lot better. For instance, here before the zoning was all aligned alongside Spring Street, but now after upgrading with keys and downgrading it again, we've got zoning alongside the lane here, and the same should happen if I upgrade here and then remove it. Yeah, we've got zoning here. I'll do the same to Cypress Street. Zoning is allocated to the lane, and I can deselect it again. So I've just went ahead and done that over here as well, at least in most places, not everywhere it seems, because that's where I want the zoning to be concentrated when we get to zone some lower density residential stuff out here. And just a quick sanity check of our interchanges. I need to disallow left turns here, direct left turns at least, but otherwise everything looks good. Anyways, before we move on with zoning, I think we need to get our utilities in check first. And the first thing is going to be electricity, and I would like for our region to generate its own source instead of importing from the neighbors. So let's see, I would like to use one of the power sources I haven't really used before. So I haven't used the gas power plant, and I haven't used this geothermal power plant either. So the required resource is groundwater for this one. Let's see if we've got lots of groundwater on the map, and it seems we do actually, which is really, really cool. So now we just need to find a good location, and the asset is massive. But I mean, I guess it makes sense. It needs to cover quite a bit of ground to really be able to harvest everything needed. So I think maybe on the banks of this tiny stream over here would be a pretty good location. So let's just prepare this space. We're gonna buy a few additional tiles as such, and then let's check. So there's quite a few contour lines here. This is such a well-made map. So let's see how I want to angle this. And we need oh, there's the road connection. So I gotta keep that in mind as well. Actually, let's do it like this. I don't want the road to go this close to the small riverbank. So we're just gonna place it for starters, and then we'll have to sort out all the road placements afterwards. We'll probably use our alley. This is just a small industrial road, right? Or maybe we can have a 2-lane road as like the main road. No, we'll go for the alley. I like that the most. Connect that up, and then of course we are gonna need a connection here. And we could actually have the highway kind of cut through here and then connect somewhere up here and just kind of expand our roads layout like that. But I think for starters, let's just get an additional road created here. And then we'll turn this into a bit of an industrial estate, get a bit of industry down here as well. There we go, just gonna get some simple connections in place. And we'll get a connection here as well. And then we need road access all the way down here as well. So we're gonna provide that, of course. And then let's see, where's the boundaries of the asset? It's around here, so we'll create a bit of a road going down here as well. We'll branch off into a dirt road, create a dirt road more. We're just creating a bit of a random road layout here where we can have a bit of industry, do a bit of detailing even. And let's respect this farm here and drag this through, and then we have room for a bit of industrial stuff out here as well. Let's just take a look. It looks kind of random, sufficiently random, I would say, but that's perfect. That's I guess that's what we're actually looking for. So I'm gonna grab the power lines here, and then we're gonna run those into a transformer station, I think. Although the power lines actually do look pretty cool. So I may run some big power lines across this peninsula here just for aesthetic purposes. So I think for the actual transformer station, we are gonna move across the road and place it on the other side here. Because then we can also incorporate some of this land here for future industrial use. So for starters, we're going for a really basic road. Obviously, it's a very small building. Let's see, can we enable some snapping? Just about enough room here, but this is fixable. If we just do an upgrade or two here, then hopefully we've got the space we need. We can place that here, and that's not gonna work because it's gonna look super weird due to the landscape of the area. So we're gonna try that again, relocate it, and there we go. I think that's probably fine. That's probably fine. Then we're gonna get our power line in place. Just gonna do a direct connection here, and then for these to kind of stretch them across this peninsula in a cool look, we're gonna disable some snapping, and then we're gonna use the big ones. So these are the standard ones, but if you actually, you know, say 10 meters elevated, then they turn into a different design altogether, a much bigger design. It's pretty cool looking. I wonder if we can't actually cross this, can we? No, we can't. How much it allows for, let's see, around 180 meters before it splits. So maybe, just maybe, We can have one on an embankment here, and then, oh, we can just about cross. That's fine. And then we're just gonna carve through this landscape. There you go, let's have a look. They look pretty cool, that's my only reason for building them. Anyways, we connected this segment up to the power station here, so we're of course gonna grab our electric cables, because I'd actually like to place these. They add a, you know, something visual to the game, and they will hug the roads leading into the city really nicely. So that's why we're gonna do that connection. Just grab them from the road here, and they'll do about 80 meters before they split into dual segments. I'll move alongside the tree line here, and then we're gonna snake our way onto the road. And then as we get to Cypress Street, I'm going to reduce the distance between the towers a bit. I like how that looks in a more built-up environment, and we're gonna have shops and maybe some housing alongside Cypress Street. So I think it's gonna look pretty nice with, you know, more dense set of cable towers here. And then as we move out here, we are gonna have the long distance between them again. I don't know if that makes any sense to you guys, but I'm weird like that. Cool, and let's check. The train station does not complain about a lack of electricity anymore. So that's I guess that was what we aimed for. Next up is going to be our water supply, and we've got a ton of groundwater here in the map. And realistically, groundwater pumping is pretty frequently used throughout the world, whereas actually pumping from, you know, salty seawater and then processing that into actual drinking water is not very frequently employed throughout the world because it's massively expensive and complicated. Yeah, just a small thing, I guess. But fortunately, this map does have a lot of groundwater, as we just saw. So we are gonna create ourselves a groundwater complex. Once again, just going to sort of semi-randomly drag out these small alley roads here, add in a few dirt paths here and there. We are going to revisit this area, get in a bit more special buildings or industrial units probably. But for now, a groundwater pumping station. Let's see. We probably need the tooltip here so we can see. Okay, we've got pretty much maximum capacity just about everywhere we look. So let's just place it. We'll just place it here alongside Dean Lane. Does it have any cool upgrades? Not really, no. Can we maybe stitch two together? Would that look cool? Let's just try adding in another road here. Grabbing another one of these and just trying. Creates a bit of an overlap, but I think it looks like a more interesting asset than otherwise. And of course, it gives us more pumping capacity as well, which goes without saying. And I think we're gonna need a substantial parking lot, or some parking lot at least, now that we've got the two of these. And we might as well just place that here and extend Elm Lane. Add in a bit of a curve and connect down here. There you go. And then for the easiest detailing I can imagine, we'll add in a few paths, because that's all we got in Cities Skylines 2. Which is sad, but it is what it is. There you go, that's our water pumping setup all done. We'll need the piping as well. And I think we're just gonna run some pipes underneath the highway here. And then we can connect it up easily to the city street grid. There we go. Let's check our train station. Not complaining about the access to fresh water anymore. It only needs to get rid of its poop now. And with the same logic of not trying to pump up salty seawater, we're gonna be implementing a wastewater treatment plant instead of just having like a poop outlet somewhere here. That's generally not what you do in like a high income country, at least. I hope I'm not wrong on that. So we're just gonna place that. We've got lots of space here, so I think we're just gonna place it on the corner here if we've got the space for it, and we don't due to a power line. Okay, I'll just place it here. And then this is just an invitation for us to create a more interesting road layout. And that has us covered. So if we move into a train station, it doesn't have any utility complaints, but of course it's complaining about a lack of labor because nobody lives here. And that's gonna be the same here for our utility area. All right, we are about ready to get the initial city of Norris established. So what I mean by initial is just getting the first set of local businesses growing, getting the first people moved in, and just establishing the city. And then we'll work on the railyard next. We are gonna create like a massive railyard area here with some signature industry as well. But I wanna do that while the first layer of zoning has been completed and the city is slowly growing, because we'll probably be revising a thing or two. So for zoning, we've got a sort of regular street grid here alongside Prospect Street, cutting down to Chester Street and Pleasant Street as well. And we've got some pretty easy zoning potential here because we're at 90-degree angles for most of this. So much of the commercial center of Norris is going to be centered around the train station, this grid layer here, and then it's going to slowly stretch down Chester Street as well, so that there's a bit of development alongside this street as well. And then we'll probably branch out with some smaller suburban shops, gas stations, whatnot as we progress. But the initial zoning is going to be alongside this corridor here. And I think before we get going, I'm just gonna create some more land value here. So I'm going to just grab the small plaza here and align that alongside Pleasant Street. And we'll probably move in with a large city park as well. And I think we could do for that with, we've got a bit of an odd block here alongside Forest Street. So I think if we just align this real quickly, as such, then we've got something to work off here. And I can't not do just a tiny bit of detailing here. So I am going to move in with the Anarchy mod and just expand on the path network here, so that the park looks much better integrated with its surroundings. I don't know why this isn't a possibility without mods out of the box. It's even possible in Cities Skylines 1. Once again, a little disappointing. And we're gonna do the same for the city park over here. Something like this, just to make it feel a little more integrated. And then we're just gonna very quickly grab the edges of the terrain here and just expand that like this, so that it looks like our plaza and our park is actually fitted to the block here, instead of this, let's just call this a pretty weird look, where we've got this really rough edge of grass here. I think it's gonna be a lot better to just spend a bit of time doing this. Cool, then we've got, we've got our plaza and we've got our parking place, and we're ready to start zoning. Let's get some parking lots placed down before we move on. So we'll just add one here, we'll add one to this corner, and we'll move down here alongside Prospect Street. We'll maybe add a bit of a smaller one around this area. Actually, I'm considering making sort of a park area, a trail area here alongside the train station. So I'm gonna refrain from placing anything here or zoning, and we'll just go for this setup for now. We'll place this down here. Okay. Moving in with some North American themed low density commercial stuff. And let's get zoning. Yoink. Moving down here, we've got some really big zoning tiles here, which are great for getting these big grocery store type assets going. Grab some corners here. And then I'm just going to create a bit of distance as I move further and further out alongside Prospect Street, and then we'll mix in some residential to get sort of a bit more of a natural transition, I guess you could say. We'll do the same here, have a bit of space for some residential in between. Same here, residential in between here, and I think this is a pretty good start. It should be sufficient for demand currently. So next up is gonna be some low density residential. And my technique here is to use no technique. I'm just gonna zone the whole thing up, let some of it grow, and then if there are areas where it looks odd or something doesn't really work, then I'll just move in and make some adjustments to that. But for starters, we're just gonna zone the whole thing up. Well, almost the whole thing at least. We've got some blocks here where it insists on creating these very, very small 2 tiles deep zoning layers, and I generally don't like that because the assets that turn out here do look a little funky. So I think instead we're gonna create a bit of a trail network here, and then we can just make the zoning tiles deeper here and cut that up. Okay. We've already got some industrial demand as expected, so I think it's time that we can move in and zone a bit of industrial out here. So for starters, we're actually going for some stone mining. This will of course also ensure that our buildings don't collapse. Don't know why I laughed, that's not funny, but let's just get this in place. And I think visually it also really helps because I messed up this completely. Let me try that again, and this time start correctly when mapping out the area. Something like this is a little better, and then we're gonna zone some industrial out here as well. Have some major establishments out here. And then I find that if you zone relatively narrow lots, you can, for most of the time, avoid all the chimneys, so 2x2s. It's gonna help with reducing the amount of chimneys out here, which I really like. I've requested it before, but I would love like a district policy where you could enforce that in a certain district, industrial units with chimneys or smokestacks, whatever you prefer calling them, can't actually grow, but yeah. It's probably gonna take a while before we will be seeing anything like that, because they've got bigger fish to fry currently, the developers, like fixing all the bugs. Anyways, we've got plenty of zoning now. Wind direction is moving inland, so we just have to be aware of that, but I don't think we need to develop anything here on this farmland, so that should be fine. And let's just let the simulation run for a bit and see Norris start developing. While this is all growing, we'll move in, switch to the European theme, and start zoning up some of the lots that haven't yet developed. That's gonna ensure we get a more diverse look to our city. And I find that, you know, using the European stuff for quite a few things doesn't actually break any realistic look if you want an American looking city, because the assets look generally look pretty generic. So we'll have areas here that are European zoned and just mixed up with North Americans zoned, and it's just gonna create more diversity in the type of buildings we get, and that's pretty much just what we want. As Norris is slowly developing, we'll place down a few services. The first one we'll be placing is gonna be a school, so I'm actually just gonna remove the lane here, grab the school building and just align it here on this corner as such, and we can just bring this lane here. Do we actually want to do that? Yeah, let's just do it like this, make it look a little special. Do we need this extension? Why not? And the playground, sure. And we'll just ensure that we've got zoning removed here so we don't get a bunch of weird buildings. But I think we can have housing. Then just a few simple paths. And then of course moving in and just expanding a bit on the existing textures is going to make the whole thing look and feel a lot more interesting. And the fact that you can just expand and drag from the textures that are already part of the buildings just makes this a whole lot easier, of course. And it really does make a difference if you just spend a bit of extra time doing this. Let's grab a police station as well, get that placed early on, and there's actually just about space right next to the train station here. It's almost, if we enable Anarchy, you guys can see we can move it one tile on, not on top of the train station, but kind of encroach on the train station a bit, and then this isn't really going to cause any issues because there weren't anything here to start with. And I think that looks pretty good. We'll grab ourselves a medical clinic as well. And probably try and also place that somewhere alongside the more commercial area. Although we could actually move it in here and remove this lane. Let's see, do we need any upgrades? It does look kind of good. So I think I'm just gonna upgrade due to the aesthetics. We'll remove a few houses here and then just add in a few simple paths. And we'll remove the zoning from this small area here as well. And once again, just add in some simple paths. And then for fire coverage, I was thinking we might go for something a little more fancy. See all these mountain ranges surrounding the perimeter of the map here. So I imagine this is like a major population center in a pretty mountainous part of the country, whatever country this is. Forest fires might be an issue, so let's go ahead and grab the firefighting helicopter depot and place that somewhere out here in our industrial area. Maybe here even. Yeah, sure. There you go. It's a good chance to use one of the service building assets. These assets, they look a lot more fancy than the regular ones, so I try to implement them whenever I can, and then we'll just add random paths because that's how we detail. Sweet, we've got lots of fire coverage now, at least for our 200 citizens. That should be growing in the coming time, but yeah, it's a bit low for now. Alright, so I want the city to be pretty low density. Now we don't have any low density residential demand anymore, but if we check why, we can see it's, you know, the primary detractor is that we still have unoccupied buildings. So we probably have houses, yeah, like this one that have been built by a developer but hasn't actually been moved in yet. So this doesn't mean that we have to rush out and spam medium or high density if that's not what we want. Instead, we can just kind of sit it out and wait. Demand is hopefully gonna come back as soon as these buildings are all moved into. Anyways, with the city slowly developing, and I'm already pretty happy with how it's looking. I mean, it's in a very rough state currently, but I'm pretty happy with the road layout at least we've got going. I think it's time that we place down the railyard so that we can actually connect up the Norris train station to some outside connections and maybe even get some freight rail in here as well. We've got a large open area here just next to the city and next to the train tracks, more importantly, that I think would be a pretty good spot. So we're gonna grab the 2-lane road here and then we're just gonna move it straight through here, and then just create a T-junction, very simple one, and then we're gonna align our rail yard here. Going to buy a few more tiles. Don't know why I don't just buy everything, but whatever. Train and the rail yard. Massive asset, as you guys probably know. This time it's not gonna be like a through rail yard, but you know, you'll know when I start building it. But for some reason I always insist on them actually connecting to other train tracks on both ends, but we don't, of course we don't actually have to do that. So let's just get this placed down here and then do a little in terms of connecting these tracks up. So we're gonna make this closure here. So I think we're just gonna extend this a little bit, and we'll do the same up here until they snap. There we go. Then we'll grab the continuous tool, and hopefully that's gonna enable us to create a completely smooth curve. And it does. And then we'll of course just need to connect the rest up. Nice. Just smoothing the terrain a bit here, as we'll have a major connection to the train tracks here. Get this whole thing connected up, of course. And we don't want too much terrain messing with us. Let's see. So we'll just go straight for a little while, and oh yeah, never mind. We need our simple curve tool, of course, and then we should be able to connect. And that's a simple connection, but it works. Then I'll get this connected up. And there you have it. And I think it would be pretty cool with some form of like signature factory or something out here as well. So let's just see what we have available. I don't want something that's too big or too polluting. Maybe the pharmacy, actually. We could do something interesting here, because one issue I have with the rail yard is that a lot of the footprint is like rocks and trees and bushes, which is a bit odd, I guess. But one thing we can do is we can take our pharmacy and pretty much just align our pharmacy so that it's actually covers up some of the empty space of the rail yard's footprint. So we could place it somewhere like this, for instance, then just remove this street. Of course, we'll need a connection here. And it almost looks like a single complex now, which is pretty cool. It also enables us, of course, to have a few more train tracks with freight rail, or at least what looks to be a freight rail. Of course, it's not actually functioning, but nobody has to know. It can be our secret. So I'll just be adding that as a cool little detail. And I always like advise that you add stuff like this. It might not be functional, but it can add a lot to the visual aspects, like this. Yeah, I'm just gonna... Oh, that messed up the whole thing. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, speaking of visual aspects, great timing. Anyways, just gonna get that connected up again, and then gonna try this connection again. And hopefully get it right. Yeah, that looks a bit more like it. But my point was that it really does help make things look a lot more interesting if you, for your industrial areas, for instance, just create a lot of these non-functional train tracks here. At least I find that. So I'm just gonna remove this one here, and let's see. I think I want to have a roundabout here at the very end. Cool. And okay, I need to connect up some services. I'll just do that real quick. And just as I'd hoped, our low density demand has rebounded. So we're gonna move in with some keys here and ensure that the zoning is aligned to the streets I want as much as possible, at least. And then we're just gonna zone this up, and we're just gonna paint this time again. Then we can move in and adjust if there's things we don't like, such as these 2 tiles. I don't want houses that are too long and slender or too shallow. Hope that all makes sense. I generally don't want that, at least, but sometimes it's unavoidable unless you really care about every single aspect of zoning. And that seems to have satisfied our demand for now, but it's the same deal. It's just because we've let developers build a bunch of new housing. As soon as that is moved into and we've got more jobs, we'll have additional demand, and we can pretty much keep going like that. We don't really have to care too much about the medium and high density demand if that's not what we want for our city. The commercial strip here in downtown Norwich has developed quite nicely, but we're seeing a bit of repetition. So I'll just move in with some European low density commercial and just rezone some of the buildings that I can see we have a bunch of repetition of. Because once again, the European themed buildings, they are actually pretty generic in how they look. So it's gonna look just fine if we zone that up. We've also got some additional demands for low density commercial. So we're just, oh wait, that's actually 2 zoning tiles, of course. So we're just gonna move in and zone up a bit more commercial throughout the town here. Alongside the main roads, as we've already talked about, we've got Forest Street here as well, which is also a pretty big road. So we can do a bit of zoning here as well. Getting some low density commercial in, and we'll grab this here, we'll grab this corner as well, and we will create our first train line connecting to the outside connection we have available. Passenger train line. We'll pick this platform here. Let's see, connect all. Do we have other connections, or no, this is the only one, but I think that's fine. Yank. We should start seeing some train traffic from our neighboring cities as the passenger trains are spawned. I'm just gonna check that it actually works. Sometimes I experience a few bugs when I see the first trains spawn from the railyard, so I just try to monitor if everything's fine, but it looks like everything's fine. We're going to keep expanding our low density residential areas, seeing as we've got renewed demand. Gonna get a bunch placed in here. Yeah, this did rake a few houses, but it's all in the name of progress, of course. That should add a few additional housing units, and we'll maybe need to fill out this area as well. So we'll just grab... Are we gonna bring that road through? No, I don't think so. Instead, we're just gonna have these smaller lanes kind of cut through here at a 90-degree angle, connect up to the main road, and just have some very, very simple roads here. There we go, adding in our small cul-de-sacs and zoning it all up. And due to the service building rampage I've been on, we are pretty much got a ton of jobs. Well, yeah, 1,240 jobs so far, and the population half of that. So if we really want to sprawl this, it's just, you know, grab some road tools and start working on some suburban sprawl. And that's exactly what we're gonna do. So yeah, let's fill in this area and probably move across the highway over here as well. and it is just amazing what a few trees and bushes will do in this game, because things are starting to look pretty realistic from afar. We've got some open park space and stuff that I don't want to detail too much, and I think we'll switch from the mindless zoning of low density residential to building a few single developer built modern suburban subdivisions. Yeah, that was a lot of words. So I'll just try, and then hopefully it makes sense to you guys. So we're gonna create a big area here. And what we're gonna have is some high cost houses facing the waters. And then behind those houses we'll have some cookie cutter suburbia built in. And hopefully it's gonna look pretty good when we're done with this. But we're of course gonna have to plop these. So we'll just say residential, low. Plop, level 5, and we don't want low rent, so if we add 01 after low, that should give us what we want. And then we want some big ones built here alongside the waterfront, and like I said, single developer, and then with a bit of space in between, of course. And I'm thinking this is some of the most expensive real estate in the city. Got a row of these, and then behind these we're gonna build something that's a little more affordable, but I can hopefully find something that's sort of the same modern style. It could be these actually, because that's sort of the same type of house, the same architecture, but just on a smaller lot size. And we're gonna place these real close to each other. And the cost of these is much less than the other ones, of course. Pretty simple suburban development, but I think it looks pretty nice. And I think when you compare to the organically zoned 60s and 70s suburbs we've got on the other side of this road, the difference is actually pretty clear. So very happy with how that turned out. And I think a little change I'm gonna do is I'm gonna move in here and I'm gonna grab the manicured grass that we already have here. And then I'm just gonna add that like this. Yoink. I think that's a pretty good improvement. And then we are gonna add in some trees as well. And I noticed that evergreen trees kind of dominate this map and probably this area then of New Zealand. So that's what we're going for. We're just gonna kind of follow that theme as well. And then if we enable Anarchy, we'll be able to place a few of these in between the houses as well. I'm just doing single clicks here. We'll build another suburban subdivision, single developer build once again. And for this, we're gonna grab these two farms here and imagine that they've simply been bought up by the developers to plop down some cookie cutter homes. We're gonna try and align our roads here as much as possible without actually removing the trees. Get our connection going, and this one is not gonna be quite as fancy or expensive. We're gonna go for something a little more simple in nature. So let's just we'll get another row here going. Something like this, and we can have the final one be aligned there. That's not an issue. And then we'll just connect these roads, I think. There you go. And then there are some roads I want to prioritize for zoning. Oh wait, this doesn't matter. I'm manually plopping these buildings, so I don't have to care about zoning. Let's say a level 3, and we're gonna go for some slim lots, a width of 2, and maybe 5, a depth of 5. Is that gonna be fine here? I think it is. So we've got this one that looks like this, and this one which is a little more modern looking. So I think we're actually gonna go for these, and then it's just time to spam. I'll add a bit of distance in between some of them, where we can place down maybe a few simple paths, stuff like that. Let's see how this looks. Would they actually bother? Yeah, they build some more, wouldn't they? You know, these developers, they don't. They have no chill. So I'm sure they would actually fill out everything and add in another road here, at least to just get a few more in place. And then we'll just grab the paths here and create some really simple ones that just connect through this area. There you go. So that's a really simple cookie cutter development. Nice houses though, nothing wrong with them. It's just not the most interesting area to look at visually. And wait, I shouldn't add any trees here. This was former farmland, so I'll just add trees here next to the railway tracks. That's fine. Although let's keep this farm intact, and then we'll add in a bunch of bushes though. Let's imagine that they've done some form of landscaping. And once again, I think visually these more organically grown suburbs compared to this like a single developer built one, there's an obvious difference here, so that's really nice. That's exactly what I've been aiming for when building these. Now I think it's time to make Norris a little more unique, adding in maybe a few additional signature buildings while the population continues to climb. Let's move in here and see what we've got available, maybe some commercial stuff. We've got this fashion square here, which could also do as like an office of sorts. We've got the marketplace, an auto center, and let's switch to the North American. We've got the gas station here. That would be a pretty cool fit. I haven't really placed this asset yet. We're just gonna remove a few of these Anarchy trees. And that looks pretty good, but I'm thinking that some small changes to the actual textures here is gonna make it look even better. So I'm just gonna make sure that I remove this, I don't know what to actually call it, this dirt texture that's kind of surrounding it, so that I can just kind of manipulate these and make these connect a little differently as well. I think we'll add one here as well. Did I mess up the angle here? I did, ever so slightly. And it doesn't have to like make a ton of sense. It's just to basically make it look better integrated with the surroundings. And because the city block here is at a bit of an odd angle, and that's always quite a challenge getting them to look nice. So let's just get this manicured grass in place. There you go, and we can of course add in just a few trees, or bushes rather. The other building though, I still kind of wanna, no, this one, the square center. It's kind of like a shopping mall of some sort. Could we add that in here as well? Or is the building actually too big to be fit into Norris? It might be at this point in time. The food station, on the other hand, isn't. And it's a pretty cool looking asset as well. It's like a street food place. So safe to say everything is extremely overpriced, but it probably tastes all right, and it's the premier spot if you wanna meet some fellow hipsters, right? So let's place that here. grab an entire city block for this bad boy. Maybe we'll actually turn this into, we'll get a bit of extra commercial here instead as neighbors. Nice. We can of course decorate this with a few trees. Very simple stuff. And then if we just grab the grass here and expand that, then it's gonna be a little better integrated with its surroundings. I'm going to add some textures to some of these big farms outside of the city of Norris, because that's just gonna sell the thickness even more. If we zoom out, it's gonna look like actual farms on the outskirts of town. And it's pretty simple, of course, just using the surface painter here. Oh, well, it's not really called the surface painter, right? That's from Cities Skylines 1, but the principles are kind of the same. And as we zoom out, it's really starting to look nice, just adding this in. And I don't really, there's no need to create actual agriculture because we've got so many jobs. Like we've got 3,000 jobs, but only 1,000 people are employed. So there's just no need for it. So this is a much quicker way of just quickly creating these big farm areas here. And I'm gonna fill in some of the open spots with some trees to kind of break up the farming landscape. And then to further sell the idea of these farms, we're gonna grab the alley road, which could also just be like a very small rural road, and just gonna add that, make that run through some of these areas here. And I think that just adds that little bit of extra to this area. So as we've entered September and the flora is starting to look beautiful, there's just a few more things we need to get done before we can call this a wrap. One of them is we're gonna need some death care, of course. So I'm just gonna go ahead and grab the crematorium. The cemetery is a fantastic asset, but it requires a lot of space, so it's easier if you've sort of pre-planned for it, and I obviously didn't. So we'll just grab a crematorium and then add a single upgrade, maybe two, just to make it spicy. Can you call a crematorium spicy? I don't know, but anyways, it's a pretty beautiful building, so if I add in a few paths, it's gonna halfway act as a bit of a small park as well. So you can walk near the ovens. I don't know. Anyways, we're just gonna cut some of these paths through so that it is a bit more substantial of an asset, and we'll have to remove a few trees due to Anarchy. There we go. So we've got our crematorium in place. And the next thing is I'm gonna fill in some of the empty space we have here near the train station. So since we don't actually have any office demand or any offices at all in the city, I'm just gonna manually plop some low density offices so that we can get like a small office park placed down. And let's see, just place these with a bit of distance in between. Some of them do come with some parking. And these two actually almost look the same. I don't really want that. So let's just grab these. Add this one and maybe a final one over here. And then just a few paths to kind of tie it all up. And they already come with a bit of parking, so I'm not gonna bother doing parking. And I think that's fine. And it does look sort of distinct, at least compared to the commercial assets, fortunately. And then over here, we are going to add maybe a shop or two. Something like this. And then we're just gonna fill in with some residential stuff. I'm gonna leave a bit of room for I think a path as well. And then just fill this in. Same deal over here. Very simple stuff. There you go. Gonna let that grow. And I think that concludes this video, and that's gonna be a wrap. I'm pretty happy with the start to this city we got going here, and that was kind of the goal. I hope you found parts of it inspiring or gotten some ideas at least. And if you don't want to use all the mods in developer mode, then that's fair. I would say that most of this is achievable without it. I just really feel that those tools provide an edge and helps makes Cities Skylines 2 interesting at least. Anyways, I'm gonna finish off with some cinematics of Norris, and I hope you've enjoyed this build, and to see you in the next one as well. Goodbye.